Hey everybody, welcome to the ngConf 2018 Call for Presenters Office Hours. I am Joe Eames, and we have joining us Aaron Frost from the organizing committee as well. We're both organizers for ngConf. We've already got a couple people in the channel. We're here to ask or answer questions about the Call for Presenters for really just in general presenting at ngConf 2018, whether that's what kind of topics I should submit, how should I submit, when should I submit, how best to organize my submission, and we're going to focus around the actual submission process, but we'll also be talking about what's the best way, if people have questions, how about giving a great talk as well. And this advice is great for ngConf, but I'm sure a lot of it will be applicable to other conferences as well. So we have YouTube Live. We've also got a Hangout. The link to the Hangout. Where do we have that, Aaron?
The Hangout is on the YouTube channel. Okay. So if they're on the YouTube channel, it's just the comments. All right, Jesse's got muted. Good. Okay.
Yeah, so if you're on the YouTube channel, there's a link to the Hangout. The Hangout will only hold 10 people in here, so please jump into the Hangout if you have a question to ask. Once you get your questions asked, then jump out so to make sure that it doesn't quite fill up. We don't usually end up with it actually ever filled up. At least we haven't in previous years. But just be cognizant of that. If you jump in and it starts getting towards 7, 8 people and you don't have any questions, please jump out.
Yeah, go head over to the YouTube channel so other people can jump in. Okay, so I guess it's time for us to take questions. You can ask questions, again, through jumping in here on the Hangout, or feel free to leave them on the live chat on the YouTube stream. I've got that up here, and we'll be interested. We'll answer some of these questions as well too. So let's go ahead and I've muted everyone in the room. So if you're in the room besides Joe and I, you're muted. Go ahead. If anyone has a question, should we go in order?
Yeah, we could start with
Bonnie's the top, so let's have Bonnie go first.
So yeah, so my question, I was looking at the article about what kind of topics you guys were looking for, and some of my favorite topics, RxJS and NGRX, are two things that I'm super excited about this year. But looking back at past ngConfs, you guys have had like some amazing speakers, and a lot of them were core contributors that actually worked on those. So my question is, like, how do we compete? It's kind of intimidating to go up against, Ben Lesh on an RxJS talk, or Mike and Brandon, core contributors. How do we handle that?
Joe, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so it's always important to realize that the Angular core team does come and speak at ngConf, right? We get anywhere from 6 to 12, 13, 14 core contributors that will be giving talks. And it's a good idea to look back at past years and see what kinds of topics they discuss and keep that in mind when submitting. So what you don't want to do is submit potentially the exact same talk that a core contributor is going to submit, because obviously the selection process is likely going to favor the core contributor in a situation like that. So it's important to keep that in mind. That being said, when you look at more popular topics, there's definitely room for other talks on that topic. As an example, Mike Brocky has in the past spoken about the CLI.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have some idea for a great talk about the CLI, maybe you have this idea of how I used the CLI to fix my marriage. Now, that's kind of a weird and wonky idea, but who knows?
It's possible.
Totally possible. So submitting a talk on something like that would definitely put you not in the place where, oh, we can only have a talk, one talk about the CLI. But if you submitted a basic introduction to the CLI, not only would that be bad for two reasons: one, based on the feedback that we received as to what topics people are looking for, but also that's likely going to be very close to the talk that Mike Brocky would have given in years past. So
well, he's also maybe going to give a talk on how the Angular CLI ruined my marriage. So
right.
So he's got the other side of that talk covered.
Right. So those are things to keep in mind. There's definitely room for more talks, but So don't submit, if you can, think about what talks an Angular core contributor might give on a topic, and then submit something that would be a unique talk. And it's always good to submit your own idea for a unique talk anyway. That is more likely to be approved than a talk that is very generic and likely to be submitted. I mean, for any, if anything, even if you're not going to be going up against a contributor, you might be going up against 5 or 10 other people that submitted a very similar talk. We've had that in the past where we got 10 talks that are all about the basics of animation, for example.
A lot of times, the meeting's pretty intense where we sit down to decide, hey, these are the talks we're going to put on stage. It's about a 9-hour meeting, start to finish. We do a little bit of prep ahead of time, but in order to get all that data and process it, it just takes time, and there's no other way other than just brute force, you know, looking at talks for 9 hours. And so our first pass, we go through and we do one of two things. We say definite no, or we start grouping them into categories. So if you gave a talk about NGRX, Bonnie, to your question, you would go into the NGRX, you know, bucket, and we at the end we'd come back and we'd say, hey, we want this many NGRX talks. Let's go through this and figure out which of these speakers combined with their titles and their descriptions is going to provide the most value to the attendees, to the community, right? And that's kind of how it goes. Bonnie, you know this firsthand. You helped us last year do this, so I know you totally understand. I'm simply telling everyone else how it works. So
yeah, it was fun but excruciating. It was hard.
Yeah. So yeah, you're gonna go into a bucket, and you want to be the best person in that bucket. Your talk needs to sound the best in that bucket. Yeah. So if that makes any sense.
I ain't scared of Rob Wormald. Well, maybe a little scared. All right, thanks, guys.
Everybody's scared of Rob Wormald. Okay. So do you have any more questions, Bonnie, or should we move on?
I mean, I had a question or two. I'm going to watch, and if more people jump in, I'm going to drop off because I want to make sure there's enough room. But if it's okay, if there's not too many people in, I might sit for a minute and watch.
Okay. So I'm gonna pull a question, Katerina. Sorry, I'm gonna pull a question from YouTube real quick, and then we'll jump over to you. So Gregor from Germany, he says, I'm interested in getting to know how I can prepare for my paper. It's my first paper. What is key for writing a good call for paper? I think this is a good question. We've answered this in years past, in our previous office hours that you can check out on our YouTube channel. But this year it's a little bit different than in the past, so that's why I decided to answer this, not just point you back to the previous videos. So in the past, what we've told people is, you know, we go through 300 plus talks, and we've only got 9 hours to do it. So when you divide that out, that's not a lot of time per talk, especially when you realize we're doing multiple rounds. So
shout out Dance. Merci. Scared. Bitches wanna hate on me. Up your mind, pioneer, this bitches wanna take my shit.
all right, Katerina, someone joined the room and kicked everyone out. I didn't do it. Can you try and join again? I don't. Still no sound? Can you guys hear me? There we go. Okay, cool. Sorry, we got some delay. Okay, cool. I don't know what happened. Someone just freaking hacked this Hangout. It's kind of insane. They kicked everyone out, and I'm the only one in here. If you can join again, please do. People who are kicked out cannot rejoin. What the? Fetch. How do I unkick people out? Brokey.
You look like you were all lonely, man.
Dude,
So I
I'm
jump in with you.
I'm just it's kind of weird, man. Someone joined and then kicked everyone out. Now they're out. So
There was some music playing, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. And they were wicked names. Like, I didn't know who they were, so I just kicked them out. So, Katarina, go ahead and ask your question in the YouTube chat because I can see that you're on there. Go ahead and ask that over there. And I'm going to keep answering this question from Gregor. Key for writing a talk. So, oh, dude, do we get Mike here too? Oh, dude, we got 2 mics up in here. This is great. Okay, so we want we got 60 seconds basically on the first round to go through 300 talks. So do the math. 300 talks times 60 seconds. If we go through and read your title and your description, and we have to consider it because we only got 9 hours. So we try and give each one about a minute the first time through. So your title is super, super important. So Gregor, just know that your title is really important at getting picked. There's some kind of talks that we normally avoid. We normally avoid talks around specific backends, simply because, like, for our crowd, .NET is probably the biggest background, but it only applies to maybe 20% of the audience. So we don't really like Angular plus .NET or Angular plus Node or Angular plus Ruby talks. Another talk that everyone submits, and it's not that we don't like them, it's just that it doesn't apply very well across the crowd, is lessons learned at my company. A lot of people, their talk and their description is, at my company, we had to do this and we learned some things, and I'm going to give a talk about all that cool stuff that we learned. 1 second.
Hey.
Okay. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Did you just see that? Mike and Mike?
Yeah, you get old or something.
It happened again, yo. I'm happy you guys didn't get kicked out this time. Yeah, I guess I'm in here alone because Eames can't join the Hangout. So, yeah, we're totally hacked. People keep joining in on this public link. We probably shouldn't have made it public. Codex is laughing at us. It's Codex. Anyway.
I could throw up my Snapchat filter and look like Joe Eames again.
I know. They're going to keep joining the rest of this thing. That's what pisses me off. Okay, so don't do lessons learned. It's not going to come across very well. We did a survey, and people were really clear on what they wanted to hear, and we asked a question specifically what they don't want to hear, and almost all the answers were the same, being intro to X, beginner level this, hello world this topic. People don't want any more entry level talks. That became very apparent based off the feedback to that question. A separate question that gave us similar data was, we asked if they wanted to hear advanced, intermediate, or beginner level talks, and I thought, you know, we'd get maybe 20% at the beginner level and some sort of split between intermediate and advanced, but less than 2% want to see beginner talks. A fairly good amount want to see intermediate talks, and by good amount I'm talking 20, maybe 30, and then a great majority of them want to see advanced talks. So additionally, I would recommend not submitting beginner level talks, because it's not going to help. It's not going it's probably not gonna get picked this year. Whereas in years past, that definitely wasn't a filter, but it's a filter we've got on this year. So those are some of the questions. I don't know if I've created more questions by that explanation, but if I did, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and I'll try and take care of it there. So I'm gonna go to Katerina because she was next in line. So she had 2 questions. One second, let me pull them up here. So her questions were, first, can we ask about actual topics? Yes, if you're gonna ask me about your specific topic, Katerina, feel free, and I'll talk to you about it. I'll talk to the topic, and as long as you're cool with everyone hearing us analyze, your topic, then I'm totally cool with answering that. So feel free to drop that in there. Hold on Hangouts.
I'll ask a question.
Oh, hold on. Joe's trying to tell me how to unblock people. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry, bro. Joe's giving me some steps that don't exist. Sorry, Joe. I don't think I'm gonna be able to unblock you, bro. It's not a. The steps you gave me don't exist. Okay. So sorry, Joe. Next question.
Cool.
Feel free to go ahead, Brokey.
So my question is there a topic that you as the organizers really wanted to see that wasn't submitted last year that would possibly still be pertinent this year? I know you guys did the survey, which was great from the community aspect. Was there anything that you were looking for?
No.
I can't deliver on it. I'm just curious for other people who may be watching.
Honestly, I don't really care what I want. That would be super selfish for me to ignore the results of this survey to put up on stage what I think is important. So the survey really, really helped us in putting aside any sort of biases that we have, and helps us focus on delivering what the community wants to hear. So I'm just going to say no, we don't have anything that we want to hear specifically. So so hold on 1 second. Katerina is asking her second part of her question. Can you expand on project layouts and best practices from the proposed topics? Yeah. So expanding on because in our survey results, one of the results we got was people wanted to hear about project layouts and best practices. So people generally wanted to find out about how they should organize their files, how to work better in any of their projects with larger teams, how to use the CLI inside of that, how to use not the CLI inside of that, just how to organize larger projects and how to structure them. That was a lot of what the feedback was around, and that's not a question I've had, but it was, regardless, it was pretty common result in the survey. So that's why we're gonna go ahead and, that's why I put it on there, because that's what people want to know about. So yeah. Does anyone else want to take the next question? Otherwise, I'm going to go to Mike Prentice. Go ahead, Mike.
I just was I looked over the survey. A lot of it was, RX and build tools and, state management. Does every talk submitted need to have some flavor of, RX with something or some flavor of that? Obviously, there's a lot of topics outside of that, but are we obviously you're putting your talk at risk if you don't include some of those? But how at risk is it?
Well, I explained this a little earlier. When we go through, this is a good question, by the way. I'm glad you asked it, because I don't want everyone to show up with like NGRX is their topic, right? Like, I would hate to hijack your great ideas. We want your ideas. Ultimately, the conference is what you, the community, want to speak on and what you want to hear about. So don't feel pressure to cram 50 topics inside one 20-minute talk, because it's not going to work. So we still want very detailed, very advanced, very deep talks, and they don't all have to have RX or NGRX or state management at the core of their talk. So So no, you shouldn't worry about it. You should simply worry about a topic that's not too high level, and something that's going to be deep enough. But you don't have to feel worried about not including NGRX, Mike. I hope that answers your question. Someone asked me, Craig asked on YouTube, if I could give some insight on the testing part of the survey results. Someone else asked me this as well, and I didn't have a great answer. They wanted to know if it was more, white box versus black box, unit testing versus integration testing. And honestly, most of the answers weren't very specific as far as to unit versus integration. So it just rings true that people are interested in best practices for testing Angular projects of all sizes. So if your opinion is that unit tests are the right way, then some sort of a test-driven development is the best way. Submit on that. If you think the integration tests are the one true way, submit on that. But submit on what you think the right way is, and if a lot of the community starts to agree with that, if we get several topics that are going in that direction, then we're going to pick one of those ones. So I wish I could be more specific on the insights to the testing topic. So yeah. Anyway, so next question, should we go to Ed? My man, Ed, you got a question? If not, we'll go to Jorge Cano.
Hey, man. Hey, man. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm fine. My question is, in the ng-conf, I have a lot of really good speakers and really good talks and more. And it's really difficult for the new speakers or new speakers for the ng-conf, for the CFP, create a good CFP. I don't know who is. It's really difficult, but you have a Mike or Mingo or what else are really good speakers. And the idea is, I love these speakers, I love your talks, but I'm trying to give a talk too. And the idea is, it's the idea only good topics for not Hello World, but it's only for the only one future. I don't know, but is state manager is only one future of state manager, or only one future of, I don't know, Angular Fire or what else? This is the idea for the next ng-conf?
No, we're not going to do one talk per topic. Some of the topics only warrant one talk. Okay. Some of the topics don't need multiple talks. So yeah, we're not going to, on some of them, do more than one. But on others, the results were so clear that people want to hear about it. They want to hear about anything that has to do with an observable, basically. They want to hear about performance. They want to hear about testing. These were topics that came up again. They want to hear about universal. Universal came up a lot more than I expected it to. It's a significantly more popular topic than I was aware of. So there's a lot of good things that came out of these survey that we took this year. So to help you out, Jorge, because I can see you really want to speak at ngConf. And me and you are friends, so I hope you know I want you to speak at ngConf too. So let me just say this. I want you to imagine that you're me and you got to sit in a room for 9 hours, right? Something, and I'm looking at a spreadsheet because when you fill out the form, it's all going into a spreadsheet, right? Something about your talk has to jump out of that spreadsheet at me. And it has to make me go, this is the thing the community needs to see. Does that make sense? And it's not just me there. We've got people from the community helping us. So it's not just me and Joe. Last year we started bringing in community members to help make sure that we were truly representing the community's interest in these talks. So just focus on your title a lot. Make sure your title is good. Like a good example I can show you, a person who's nailed titles in the past is Scott Moss. Go back to any talk he's given at ngConf or at Angular Connect, and he just knows how to pick talk titles. And John Papa, also great at talk titles. And then also make sure you're giving a talk that's relevant on top of that talk title. So, so yeah, I don't really know what else to say other than you're trying to be the one that stands out in the bucket of, testing or universal or NGRX. You're trying to be the one that makes the organizers go, yeah, that's the one that the community needs to hear, if that makes sense. So it is marketing. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, and you only have a description and a title to market it. So yeah, that's my answer to that question. Ed, you got a question?
I will take an IOU.
An IOU?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and answer some questions on from YouTube. Jared wants to know if I would say a catchy title with a bit of a mystery is better than a boring yet direct one. I don't know. I can't generally apply that statement. I'm not going to say that a catchy title on top of a really good talk idea is not the best possible way, but I can't generally say that's the best way either, because the Angular team doesn't do catchy titles. They go straight to the point of what they're going to talk about, right? And the Narwhal guys last year, they didn't have catchy titles either, but they gave great talks. So generally, I can't say that, but it doesn't hurt to have a good talk title name. So yeah. Another question: how many CFP responses do we typically get? What are the odds of being selected? The odds of being selected are probably maybe 7% based on the amount of people submitting. Well, that's not true. It's probably more like 10 or 11%, because we added our third day a few years ago, and so we have a whole fair day full of topics as well. And that's like a multi-track day where we can get a lot of topics in. So being selected is probably like an 11% chance that your talk or your workshop will get selected. And if you've got something that you think 20 minutes isn't enough for, again, make sure you submit it for a fair day discussion as well. So, all right, I'm gonna make sure I'm not missing anybody. I've got good knowledge and experience with Backbone. Can I give a talk on some hacks in Backbone to make stuff easy? No. Don't do that. Don't give talks about Backbone. Not because we hate Backbone. It's just it applies to such a small portion of the audience that it's not. I wouldn't recommend it. People said they don't want to hear about third-party libraries. So we took that to mean that some of the talks we've picked in the past, people aren't interested in integrating with third-party libraries. So I wouldn't really tie an Angular talk to a third-party library, simply because it sounded like the community wasn't interested in that. Okay, again, anyone watching this on YouTube, there's a link to the Hangout in the channel that you can, or in the description of the YouTube video, you can join the Hangout and ask questions here. Okay, if we have experience at meetups but not recording on YouTube, is that a ding against being selected? If you have got a video to show us your speaking experience, and we're basically at a tie between you and another speaker, and we can see a video of you killing it on stage, like absolutely doing a fantastic job of presenting, yeah, that helps you. So definitely include that in your bio. If you think that that's going to help tip the scales, do it. Because we do look at those things. People submit a lot of non-conventional stuff in their bio that we do look at when we're trying to narrow it down to that final list. So yeah, definitely submit that. Bonnie, do you like it when two people submit talks together, or do you generally prefer solo talks? We've had a lot of good success with both. I mean, like last year, one of our most popular videos was Brandon and why am I not remembering his name? Mike Ryan. Is it Mike Ryan? Brandon and Mike spoke together, and that was one of the people's favorite talks. We've had in the past, Kara's spoken with multiple people, and people love those talks. We've had John Papa speak with people, and those are always successful. So I can't say no. Generally, people don't submit in groups, and we have had a couple crash and burns with large groups in the past. So I don't know. I'm not gonna definitively give you an answer on that. Sorry. Katerina, if I'm entitled to any more time from the survey, third-party people don't want to hear about third-party tools that aren't core to Angular. Do maps and map libraries fall into that category? I think that maps, like Google Maps, it applies to generally, I don't know, not everyone in the audience. So I don't know if it's a good topic for the main stage. It sounds like a great topic for Fair Day, though. I think you emailed us on this, and I was going to reply and have you. Google Maps integration with Angular sounds like a fantastic workshop topic. So if you've got a Google Map topic, consider how you could fit into a workshop instead of a main stage talk, in my opinion. I'm not saying you can't submit it as both, and maybe you should try and submit it as a talk and a workshop, and we'll pick one maybe. So maybe submit it both ways. Okay. Do you have a date when people will be notified? Yep. So we're sitting down on January 15th, I think is the date. Joe got kicked out, so he's not here, so he can't confirm. But it should be within a few days of us picking on January 15th. So as soon as we close the call for papers, we're gonna have our meeting, and then we'll start notifying the next day. So yeah, you'll find out very shortly after the call for papers closes. Someone's asking, do multiple submissions work again, being selected if we have more than one idea that are significantly different? So I think what you're asking is, can you submit multiple ideas? You can, because we're not going to pick two. So feel free to submit all the good ideas you have. So if you've got 10 great ideas and they're all distinct, actually they don't even have to be distinct. If you've got 10 ideas, we're not going to pick two of them. So yeah, I'd say submit all of them, because we want to make sure that we pick the right talks. And if number 9 or 10 is the right one, then I'm glad you submitted 10. So yeah, do that. Okay. So yeah, January 15th is the date we're picking talks, and then we'll let people know shortly after that. Okay. I've finished the questions from the YouTube, so I'm going to come back over and ask Ed if he's got a question. Ed, you ready?
Yeah, I have a question. I was
Okay.
wondering how much you guys did the community survey. I was wondering, are you guys specifically looking for things that the community wants, or do you have kind of your own topics that you're thinking of that you would like to push?
No.
Yeah.
We starting last year, we started bringing community members in to help us pick talks. So we flew out a couple people from the community to sit with us for that 9-hour day, and it's grueling. I mean, it's not fun, but they did it. We try and make it fun. I was super thankful they were there, and they help us pick talks. So yeah, last year was the first year that we got aggressively involved in having community members help us pick the topics, and we weighed their opinions heavily. This year, we tried to front load some of that feedback for the people submitting by doing this survey, so that you could have that information when you submitted your talk idea. So that way, if you got a great idea, but you were going to submit it with like coupled to a .NET backend, figure out how to make it an idea without that .NET piece, so that we can end up picking it and not have it. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense, Ed?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I was wondering too, they voted that real world upgrades they were highly interested in, but just upgrades in general, there was too many talks.
So let me talk about real world upgrades. That was an interesting piece of feedback.
I was thinking of potentially doing a talk on the real world upgrade that we did.
So you're talking about, hey, I upgraded and I work at this company, and this is what we had to do?
Kind of, but tweak it so it's not going against, you were saying, like the lessons learned.
Yeah. So the lessons learned talk is so easy to turn into an absolutely fantastic talk. It's really, really easy to say, what was I going to tell them about our lessons learned, and then just make a talk about that, right? Like if your lessons learned was like fantastic component hierarchy or architecture or how to do NGRX the way we did it, figure out how to rename it. This is how we did it, lessons learned at my company, and just talk about the thing and leave the lessons learned part out.
Yeah.
And it will totally pop your talk title, I promise.
My thing was more so like I've been going to ngConf for 2 years, and there was a lot of upgrade talks, but it was more so like do this highly specific thing, and it just didn't work for whatever reason when we went to actually go do it, and we kind of had to navigate around a lot of obstacles.
So I'm gonna partner with you on this one. One of a huge enigma for me that I don't understand is why ng upgrade is not the most popular topic on the internet right now, like in the Angular community. There's more lines of Angular JS written than any other JavaScript framework on the planet. So I don't understand how ng upgrade is not the most popular topic around, and especially since I've done ng upgrade twice. It's tough. It's not easy, and these high-level, like feel-good talks at conferences aren't helping. If this, hey, just do this, this, and that, and it works. Like that doesn't help at all. That doesn't help anybody. Because when you actually get into do it, you and I both know it sucks, right? It's hard.
Yeah, and like I went through the original entry upgrade and then switched over to static, and it was a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. I am interested in with the upgrade talk might be a thing where I would make an exception for the lessons learned, because currently the existing upgrade talks, and I'm not trying to down talk any speaker we've ever had, but they've just not been deep enough. So I would be a huge fan of a deep, highly technical, fantastic upgrade talk. But and that's what the community said as well. Actual upgrade, not ethereal feel-good upgrade. So yeah.
I was also wondering, we did it with going from Material 1 to Material 2 and also from UI router to Angular router. Should we touch on those? Like really?
I mean,
I don't know if that's too detailed.
There's so much to talk about. Honestly, I feel like you should give a fantastic workshop submission and a talk submission. Figure out how you could do it in 20 minutes and figure out how you could do it in 60, because I don't think you can do it in 20. I think you need 60.
Okay, I was thinking 20, but I've never done a talk before, so I don't know. I was talking to Vlad though, and he was saying 20 would be good. But,
I mean, there's like 20 topics to talk about when you talk about upgrade.
Yeah.
If you spend 60 seconds on each one, your 20 minutes is up.
Yeah,
so,
it goes pretty quick, I guess.
You need to figure out a 60-minute version, in my opinion. That would be my suggestion for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Oh man, so many questions. Is there a way we can namespace Angular libraries doesn't conflict? I don't know how to answer that question. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the channel because YouTube, I don't think it's got anything I'm gonna listen to. Okay. Pushpender, you got a question? Pushpender. All right, Jeff, go. You there? You got a question?
I'm here. I don't have a question. I'm just listening.
Oh, cool. If we get too full, I might need you to drop off so people can fit in here. So,
all right.
But for now, you're good. We've got plenty of space. Okay, I'm going to move on to Mike Cohen. Mike, you have some question? Mike, you're muted. We can't hear you. Mike?
He posted his question in the chat area.
Oh, he did in the chat. Sorry. Hold on a second. If I can cover a topic in 5 minutes, I'm going to rep in 20. Should I submit it? Yes. If you have a talk you could do in 5, it would work as both a 5 and a 20. I would definitely say submit it as both. We don't get a lot of 5-minute talk submissions. So, I mean, in a game of numbers, you're upping your odds by submitting it as a 5 and a 20-minute talk. So I would definitely say submit 2 flavors of the same thing if you think you could do it either way. People have had a lot of success with this in the past, so I would definitely do that if I were you. Okay, can I use jQuery in server side? Come on. This isn't Stack Overflow, so I'm not going to answer Stack Overflow questions. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. So I mean, does anyone want to ask a question?
All right,
Okay.
I've got a question then. This is
Well,
Jeff Go.
I'm going to give 1 second, Jeff. Let me answer one off of YouTube, and then I'll come back to you. Is that cool? So Schwarzenberger said, would an 80s theme title description get us an instant +1? It will not hurt. It could only, I'm not saying it will help, it could help. Does that make sense? It's not bad, but it's not mutually exclusively good, but it could be good. So I would do it if I was submitting. Let me just say that. I would do it if I was submitting. I would try and make it relevant to the theme of the conference. So yeah. I mean, John Papa would do it the same thing as well. So I would say that. All right. I'm going to go to Jeff Go.
So I submitted a topic on the protractor. I submitted that as a 5-minute quick talk.
Okay.
I'm assuming you'll be looking for those types of talks on protractor.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, testing was, I don't know if it was the 2nd or 3rd most popular thing in the survey results. So of course, testing is going to be, and not silly testing, like actual testing, right? Like good, deep, actual testing advice for people, because these high-level beginner things, we're not interested in that. So if you got a 5-minute talk, it needs to be very, very, probably you've only got enough time to pick one really specific thing and go deep for 5 minutes. So I would make sure it's a pointed, sharp talk to a very specific thing. That would be my recommendation.
Got it.
Yeah. So, okay. If we promise to dress up, that will not help. The dressing up is not going to help, probably, but it might. Katerina, if a topic would be good both as a 5 or 20 or both talk and a workshop, how would the submission procedure work? Make 2 separate submissions? Yes. Submit it twice. One as the one as the other. And if you don't want to duplicate your bio and everything, feel free to just say, see my previous submission. And if you're submitting 10, you don't have to put your bio in every single one. You can just say, see my previous submission, and we'll go get it. So yeah, that's what I would say to do on that one, Katerina. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, let me know. Who else is up? Mike, you had a question. Let me go over to the chat. I saw you had a question about NGRX. 1 second. Follow up on NGRX talks. Cover multiple features of NGRX or stick to one? So, I mean, I can't really say, because if someone submitted a talk, and this is a fact, called, and don't everyone do this, 20 advanced things on NGRX you didn't know. And you could actually teach me 20 not basic or intermediate level, but advanced things about NGRX that I didn't know in 20 minutes, I'd probably pick that talk. Or, 10 and 20 minutes. Like, as long as you're promising to teach a bunch of different things, then you could do a bunch of different things. But if you want to talk specifically about real-world side effects or something specific to you, Mike, that would be good as well. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let me go back to the next question over here. James Henry, you got a question?
Yeah, I was curious about the process. I don't envy you at all for the 9-hour day, but I think I heard some of the Angular Connect guys talking about it. It's really interesting to think about how your energy levels personally change throughout the day. So, for example, obviously you're going to be super enthusiastic at the beginning, and you'll tear through the initial ones. Then there'll be that dip in energy, and then inevitably, when you get close into the end, you'll get that spike in energy again. So I was wondering if that is a factor, like whether we should think about, okay, strategically, should we apply close to the beginning of the CFP process or close to the end, or are you going to do anything to kind of randomize things in terms of submission order?
That's a good question. I love that you're thinking about us. But you're really thinking about yourself, but you're also thinking about us. You're trying to get inside my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like that.
What it's all about.
Yeah, I like that. So I'll tell you a couple of interesting questions. So last year, Shai did something that was really, really funny. Shai Resnick. It worked perfectly, just like he thought it would. He just waited for something to happen. Like, he waited for a few days, enough time to go by to where there was some submissions, and but not towards the end. He tried to time it right in the middle, and it actually worked perfectly. And he submitted a talk titled, "Hey guys, this isn't a real talk submission. I just want to let you know we love you. Keep working hard. I know it takes hours, but keep up the good fight." And we all laughed. Like, it was super perfectly timed. So that's a story just kind of to speak to your behind the scenes, right? We're pretty good at making sure we're comfortable. Anyone who's been to ngConf knows who Sunny is, and she's fantastic. Sunny makes sure that we've got what we need, so that we're not turning into zombies like what you're saying, right? So we put in a lot of time. We had breaks in the middle. Last year, we knew at the end that we were going to check out this virtual reality thing that we were going to have at the conference. We wanted the community members that were in town to be able to check that out with us. So we had a break where we could go do some VR stuff and then come back and finish. So we try to keep it cool. I mean, it is a long day, but we take this really, really serious. We don't fat dog it, and I feel like maybe the thought is we might start fat dogging it towards the end. We have a pretty cool group, and I'm not going to talk to myself, but the guys I work with and Sunny and the people that came in last year from the community, fantastic. So I wouldn't be too worried about the order. So, but I do understand the concern. I just don't think it's an issue. So yeah, I promise we'll consider everybody the same. We don't taper off that quick, especially on our 5th year, right? Like, it's not our first time, so we're kind of used to it. So, good question. 1 second, let me come over here and see if there's any questions in YouTube I'm not getting. No. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions on the Hangout or in the Hangout? Let me go to the chat. Maybe I missed somebody. 1 second. I really wish James was here. Okay. Yeah, James Henry, you said it. Oh yeah. I already answered your question. Okay. So I'm trying to think of other things I should talk about because no one's answering any questions, which means probably I know I got 45 viewers still. So, if you have any needs, if you got a topic and you're like, man, I'm too scared to talk about it on this YouTube thing where everyone's gonna hear me. I don't want people to steal my genius idea that I'm the only person smart enough to have this idea. And you want to talk to me about it offline or talk to Joe about it offline, you can reach any of us, me, Dave, Kip, or Joe. Reach out to us on Twitter. You can email us at info@ng-conf.org. We'll answer there. And we do answer those questions, and we try and get everyone what they need. We're really, really interested in making sure we have a diverse topic base, a diverse speaker base, and just making sure that we're providing a super high quality conference. So anything you need from us that's going to help you get a good call for papers going, please reach out to us and let us know. Mike Prentice, is including enterprise large project content a bonus or a negative? It's real world. Enterprise stuff is real world, which means it can get deep. So I'm not going to say necessarily it's a bonus, but just making sure that you're sticking to that ratio that the community gave us of advanced and intermediate, I think will help. And I think leaning towards an enterprise topic will help you focus on, keep your focus on that stuff. So to your question, Mike Prentice, please drop methods for reaching out to you guys in the video description. Okay, yeah, we'll have Sonny or Joe. I'll update it with how to reach out to us up in the video description for this video afterwards. So I don't really know what else to talk about. Joe Eames isn't here. We asked people. Ed, you got any questions, Ed?
Yeah, I got.
You're like my co-host right now.
My what? Yeah, I'll make a good show.
Yeah.
So you're saying you told me and a couple other people to submit your talk for multiple time lengths. Should we be trying to brand these talks differently for different time lengths, or what are your thoughts on?
I don't think so. If you want to, but
Okay.
if you got literally the same talk, 3 different flavors of it, then submit the same thing. If you want to change the title though, if you're like, man, this title doesn't fit when it's only 5 minutes, let me change it. Then that's fine. Change it. I'm not gonna, it probably depends on per person, but just do what you think makes the most sense for your talk.
Okay. And then for the 1-hour workshops, is that still like just a talk where like you stand up there and talk and go through stuff, or is it like you want to get the people involved in that and
yeah? So hold on one second. My kids are about to interrupt this whole thing. Okay, say hi to Ryan Connor, everybody. He's eating some ice cream. Okay, say hi, Ryan Connor.
Hello.
Okay, so what was the question again? Sorry.
So with the 1- and 2-hour workshops, is that is that intended to be more of just like a talk where you stand up and go through your slides, go through your thing, just drawn out to an hour or two, or is that like, let's code along, let's go through this code thing that I have put together?
We've had both.
Yeah, that's just kind of what you feel.
But I would say a hands-on, like Sean Larkin last year did a hands-on Webpack, and people were like, this is the coolest thing ever. I think that a hands-on workshop, because as you're giving your workshop, there's other workshops and fun things to do, right?
Yeah.
So people don't, if they don't want a hands-on workshop, there's other content going on at the same time. They can go somewhere else. But some people want the hands-on, right? Some people want to actually get in and do the thing. So if you submit it, as a, they'll follow you through, like you've got a repo that they're going to be working through a problem, like it's a guided session. That would be fine. The 2-hour talk can get tough. So even if you are going to do a talk that's an hour, I would recommend you have parts in the middle where you can have interaction with the audience, because 60 minutes, when I go to conferences with 60-minute talks, I don't really like it, but that could be just me. So figure out how to break it up, but I would recommend what you're asking, which is I would recommend doing a walk along, a side by side where they follow you through some code, and you have a GitHub repo, and if they get lost, they can just check out a branch that's got them up to this current spot, right? So that's what I would recommend.
Okay.
So Katerina wants to know how many spaces for workshops are there. So we've got 3 and maybe 4 areas for workshops on Fair Day, and they will be full the whole day. So it's an 8-hour day, and there will be workshops going basically the whole day. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. People can roam, and if you go into a 20-minute session and then you got to wait 40 minutes for your next session you want to watch, we've got virtual reality, and we've got games, and we've got, ukulele lessons. Like, there's plenty of things to do for 40 minutes. Go, find an Angular team member in the hallway and go chat with them. So it's kind of a hodgepodge Fair Day. You just kind of make up your own schedule as it goes, and they're all kind of staggered as far as timing and everything goes. But we're just trying to get a good diverse, session a good diverse, you know, combination of classes and lessons people can go learn from. So, yeah, I mean, we've had weirder things than ukulele lessons, but yeah. So, Prentice, did you have a question? Prentice.
So there's been a lot of workshops on, you know, sort of the basics of different UI component libraries like Angular material. Is that something, you know, a deeper workshop into advanced topics that would be useful on those, or because there really wasn't any kind of UI component mentioned in the survey, should we avoid those sorts of things?
No, I think people generally misunderstand the topic that I think you understand very well, which is having a solid component library, right? I think, Mike, I think you clearly understand why you want one, and I understand why you want one, and I understand why you want one that someone else builds and maintains for you. I understand that a lot. It's a huge money save, right? I don't think most people understand that, and I'm not trying to criticize, but we haven't ever heard anything over the years about a real need or a clamor for, hey, tell me which UI component library I should use, or, you know, does that make sense? So Angular material is probably one of the most popular ones among the community, but there are some other really popular ones. ng Prime is getting more popular. Lightning is pretty cool. If anyone hasn't seen Lightning, I implemented where I work. We started using VMware's Clarity, and that's pretty cool too. So I would feel bad saying to stick away from that. So if you think you can come up with a title that describes why it's really important to talk about that, we're open to hearing about it. We're open to getting it considered and getting it on the stage. I think that's what your ultimate question was.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, both for, you know, talk and for a workshop. One more question. Sports themes, are those positives or negatives? Is there any kind of branding or trademarking concern that, you know, is there?
Sports teams?
Sports theme, like if you were to have a theme based on, you know, talk.
I think it would be fine. Are you worried about us like showing a logo of like the New England Patriots, or what do you? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really understand the question.
Yeah, if you did something like based on the Patriots or you know, the Super Bowl or something like that, and would that be an issue?
No, I mean, the only things that are going to be an issue is something that would violate the code of conduct, or if you're playing audio from something that's copyrighted, like the NFL's intro theme, right? That would be a problem, but as long as you're not breaking the code of conduct, I think you'll be okay. You also need to be aware, though, that there's you know, it's a diverse group. Not everyone likes football. If you go too deep into the analogy, you lost, you know, a lot of people. And additionally, this year, it's a political thing that I'm super in support of, but the NFL is a political thing this year, you know. So anything politics is basically you're asking people to throw darts at you. So I can't recommend anyone talk about anything political, just because this is not the place for that, and it's very likely to turn into a code of conduct violation. And we may see that and be like, we're not gonna bring that up on the stage for everyone to get distracted from Angular and talk about that instead. So be sensitive to the code of conduct and to the diverse, you know, community that we're part of, you know. But
yeah, I didn't think about the political piece. That's pretty important.
Yeah. Mark, does the community like when talk shows Angular used in a different domain? I recall talks that combine art and music. Given that it doesn't water down the tech details, is that a good strategy? I think that there's room for a talk like that. Mark Degani asked me that. I think there's room for a talk. Eames is back.
Hey.
Good job, man.
I figured out I needed to log out of the blocked
And
account.
Oh, good.
I can't just add another one.
Okay, good. So I think that, hold on, what was the thing? Oh yeah, so there's room for artsy, cool talks. We are probably going to focus on not that, but we do make sure that we've got room for that. We make sure every year we've got room for a non-Angular talk. It's something that has nothing to do with Angular at all. A few years ago, we had a doctor who deals with helping people with Parkinson's disease there, and that was phenomenal. I mean, half the audience was crying, and the other half was just like impressed at the bravery and the innovation of the guy. So we do give room to talks that have nothing to do with Angular, or that have Angular ends up being kind of a side note. Like, Taro, he gave his talk about generative art using Angular, and that was fantastic. And then it was really cool because the NativeScript team took his app and built it using NativeScript like in the same exact day. So then everyone had a native app that could do his thing. It was really cool. So just know, Mark, there's a very small pool for talks like that you can put your name in that bucket, but there's a very few things coming out of that bucket. Like, it's not gonna be one of the popular things, but we do have room for it. So
right. Also, sometimes
I'm gonna let Eames take over, and I'm just gonna be the side note because I've ran this whole thing. So Eames, you're in charge, bro.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I want to make a note about the generative, or like Angular's a side note thing, and that is that oftentimes we also look at some of those as opportunities to do things that aren't traditional talks. Right? We've taken a few talk submissions and actually asked them to come and do something with that technology, but different, like on our fair day where we have a less traditional format. So there's still a lot of value in submitting those, like Aaron said, but yeah, we'll choose very few of those. All right, we're like down low on questions. It's not like I have any specific topics that I felt like we needed to address. But do we talk overall about just the feedback from the community and what kind of talks we're looking for, intermediate and advanced?
That's where I was about to go, because it's kind of died down. I was about to head over to kind of talk about some of that feedback stuff, just because I think it's something that people are going to be interested in knowing. And given that we're basically at questions, I think it might be a good time. Does anyone, before I do this, have any questions? 1 second, my YouTube is all catching up. I don't see any control room. Let me scroll down real quick. I don't see anything, so I'm going to go to the survey results. So we asked a lot of questions. A lot of these questions were like basically the same question, just with a kind of different slant on it. And I kind of expected very similar results from those similar questions, but we got distinct answers, which was really interesting. An example, we said, what is the #1 topic you want to hear? And in the separate question, I said, what's the #2 topic? I expected the answers for the two to basically be the exact same, just in different orders. But we got distinct answers. Then we asked, what's your third most interesting talk? And I expected it to be the same as the first two, just in different amounts. But we actually got even different answers, right, Joe?
Yep. Yeah, very, very, very interesting.
And it was really, really cool. On the #1 thing, NGRX was by far the top thing. On the #2 thing, Angular CLI and just kind of custom builds in general, the build process in general, as well as routing, advanced routing, was the second topic. And though neither of those existed in the top, in like the answer to the first question, so it was a completely different result. And then in the third group, we said, what's the third thing you want to hear about? People said performance was by far the top answer, as well as Angular Universal, and then some actual animations, not a simple hello world animations like we normally get, but an actual deep dived, how do you have global animations in a large corporate project that you can share across different components, like that kind of stuff, So yeah. I talked about the beginner split versus intermediate versus advanced. It was 40% want intermediate and 57.9 want advanced, and only 1.8 want beginners. So I'm not saying we won't have any beginner, but I would recommend not many people submit a beginner talk. So you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So also Aaron wrote a great blog post about the results that is on the ngConf blog. So over at the ngConf website, there's 2 resources you should definitely check out when considering putting together your submission. One is the first page of the CFP itself. It's got a ton of information. Read through all that. The second is the blog post that Aaron wrote at ngconf.org. There's a link to the blog at the top. Go in there and you can look at the survey results where he gives even more detail than what's on the CFP page. In those cases, just keep in mind the fact that there's now like this list of topics, right? And that list is maybe 10 or 12 total topics that people have said, hey, we want to see things on. That also means that we probably see a lot more submissions centered around those 12 topics. So keep that in mind. Unless you feel like you've really got a strong case for that, you might want to either submit something on one of those topics, but then hedge your bets with another topic, or make sure that you're getting a really good angle on one of those topics, because you'll want to differentiate yourself. Assume that you're going to be competing against 3 to 8 other submissions on a given topic if it's in that list of the 12. Or look at the topics and sort of read between the lines there, like figure out, okay, if these are the 12 topics people have indicated they want to see, then what do they still want to see that maybe isn't necessarily listed, but these topics can sort of tell me like what they might be looking for, and consider that when submitting a topic, when submitting a talk.
Yeah, I agree. And then do some homework. If you really, really want to talk, do some homework. Like in here, one of the answers said people want to know about component architecture, right? Do some homework on components, and there's so much advanced stuff in there that no one talks about. Like, talk about that, you know? No one in the survey result said, what is what is a provider? Deep dive into factories or stuff.
Right.
And I mean, if you had a topic, I think you should go off on that. An example of a guy who submitted a topic that no one else even touched, and it actually ended up being fantastic and super relevant, was 2 years ago. Justin Schwarzenberger, he submitted on, the whole inline styling stuff for components in Angular, and no one else submitted on that at all. And he went through everything. He went through all of it. He talked about even down to the emulation modes. You know what I'm saying? And so I would definitely do some homework and figure out how you can get below the beginner level, get below the surface, and do a little bit deeper digging and talk about something very specific that you can teach people.
Right.
So.
And again, think about that intermediate to advanced level, right? So these aren't topics listed for every potential advanced topic, but those are the type of things that we're going to want to see submissions on. So for example, I hope that we see a couple of submissions on really a nice deep dive into explaining change detection. But it can't just be, hey, I'm going to talk about change detection, right? It's got to be, you got to put in the magic of a great talk, which is being able to explain it, something that's really deep, to an audience that's a little deep, right? Like they don't want to see beginner talks. They want to be taken to the next level. So you can't just give some super esoteric talk, right? You got to be able to walk them through looking at the source code and being able to read source code, dealing with debugging or error messages, like on a deep level, not just the intro to how to debug Angular, right? You want to see advanced topics on topics like this, life cycles, all these sorts of behind the scenes type stuff that are second level as you get into Angular. Those are the types of topics that will garner a lot more interest from the organizers as we choose talks.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
things like host listener and host children and topics like that that people don't right off the bat. There was a great session from Angular Connect that was the game show that Shai Resnick did, right? And he had like 10 things
At Angular Connect.
questions at Angular Connect.
Just last week.
Just last week. So it should be published by now, or if not, the YouTube video will be published fairly soon. We played this game show, but he had these like 10 fairly advanced questions about Angular. Those would be a great place to look and see, hey, these are things that not very many people know. So how can I take an idea from here and craft a talk around it? Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Ed, I know that you're interested in Upgrade, and I know that you probably have 7 or 8 things about the Upgrade that no one's ever talked about. I know you do because you've done it, and I know that I've done it, and I've got 15 things no one's ever talked about.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, my thing was I wasn't in a rush to upgrade because for business reasons, we had to keep our app up. We couldn't just do a one-shot. We couldn't take 2 months off and do an upgrade. It's kind of been continual. So, and one of the things I realized was just wait. You wait 6 months, everything gets better for whatever little area you're doing. But
yeah,
things we just had to figure out.
I don't disagree. I think that someone needs to get in and give those kind of talks. A lot of times when people talk about, anyway, I'm not going to get into Upgrade because I could talk about it for an hour. But that kind of expert level stuff that you have hands on with Upgrade, that's the kind of thing people need to be talking about. To Joe's point.
Yeah.
Joe's point. It looks like the YouTubes is died down on questions, Eamsy.
So I think are we ready to wrap? I think we covered all the stuff that we definitely wanted to cover. We covered a lot of good questions.
Yeah.
Ready to wrap and put this out
to
watch.
Let's just say, hey, we'll share this out. Please share this with your friends. Share this with people who you think should be submitting that aren't. Like if you've got a work buddy or someone who you're like, that person needs to be submitting. That person needs to be teaching the community.
Right.
Please share this with them. Please get them to submit. Please help get the best talks up on the stage because it's a group effort here. If anyone needs to reach out to Joe or myself, find us on Twitter. I'm JS_dev. Eames is Joe Eames at Joe Eames, right?
I think it's at Joseph Eames.
At Joseph Eames.
Right.
You can also
email us at the info account.
Yeah, info@ng-conf.org.
We've answered lots of questions sent into there about, hey, I've got this idea for a talk. Keep in mind that we can't spend a lot of time answering very specific questions. If we have general questions, we might point you here. But if we see a new question that's pretty novel, we definitely want to answer it. If it's specific questions, we might be I've just responded to one and said that type of a talk. Somebody suggested a talk that they were thinking of submitting. I said that doesn't often get accepted, but if you pick the right approach, then it potentially could. Sort of some general advice. But another thing that we also want to make very well known is that if you're offering or thinking about submitting something, but you want some help just getting your CFP together because you're not comfortable with it, we really want to help. We're also specifically looking to help people that want to get into speaking, might be coming from a disadvantaged place, right? If you're brand new to programming, brand new to speaking, and you want just a little bit of general advice, we'd love to help you out as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're always looking to increase the diversity of our speakers, so we want to make sure that everybody's playing on a level playing field from that standpoint. So if you want any help, you feel like, hey, maybe I'm not qualified I don't know how to submit, but I feel like I've got a really good talk, but I've never submitted before. We'd love to talk to you. We don't select a lot of first-time speakers at ngConf. We sort of want to see that you've been through the ringer a little bit. But
last year we had at least 3.
Yeah. Well, so when I say a lot, that represents maybe 10% of our total speaker pool. But
of day 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Then there's Fair Day that we probably had a couple other beginners as well.
Yep. So we would love to help you out as we can. So please shoot us an email. The worst that can happen is say that was for us to just give you back a quick response, but we would love to help out and just to increase the quality of our submissions as we can.
I'm going to pause to you, Joe, because Daniel Zen just joined, and I want to make sure we answer his question.
Oh, well, thanks for acknowledging me. That's appreciated. So I've spoken at ngConf before on the very first year, and I haven't spoken since, and I've definitely submitted. I guess one of the questions is, sometimes I feel like you guys want like those, and you've mentioned it before because I've definitely listened to these before. You're looking for the topics that are really like grabby, like the ones that you feel like people will rush to. And then other times, you know, there's the more informative kind of subjects, but maybe sound a little drier. And I'm just wondering, I'm trying to like, you know, I'm trying to just figure out maybe partly it's naming your conversation, naming your topics, and of course, obviously the subject matter as well. But sometimes you can have the exact same subject matter, but a really good topic will definitely grab. And so I know you've talked about how to name yours before. I'm just wondering if you could give me some clarification on maybe what a best approach or tactic might be.
I think that's a great question. This year's going to be different than the past years, I think. And in that, in the past, and last year was our first real effort to get the community more involved in picking topics with us. This survey that we just did, though, we keep talking about it, and people are like, dude, stop talking about the survey. But it was really important for us to get that much honest feedback from the community about what they want to hear. So it's going to change ngConf, and I hope it's for the better. We're going to be picking, I think, very different talks than we would have without that survey. So I don't think you can expect the same kind of stuff that you got in years past where the title was like 100%. This year, I think it's going to be harder for us as organizers because we're going to be having to dive in deeper. My son's photobombing me. I know it's ridiculous, but we're going to have to. We're going to have to.
Fine and cute.
We're going to have to dig in deeper with picking the Daniel Zens of the world and hearing even though it's not super fun, recognizing it is the advanced topic that people are asking for, though. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense, Daniel?
Sure.
So,
yeah, I don't want to bore people either, or rather, I want to make sure I grab them. I mean, you need people in the room as well. Although, you know, once it gets recorded, that also tells you how popular. But you know, that's only after the fact.
Yeah.
I've definitely had topics with boring titles that after the fact gets hundreds of thousands of views, and you're like, oh, I guess that was an interesting topic after all.
Yeah. I'll just say I think it's going to be different this year. I can't tell you exactly, hey, this is exactly what I'm going to pick. I will tell you it's going to be based on different criteria, and the talks that don't sound as fly don't have as much to worry about this year because we're going to be paying more attention to advanced topics and intermediate topics than we ever have. And I think that was if we're being totally honest, I think that was a huge falling short on our part too. We're always worried about showmanship, and I think that the Angular community is to a point now where Angular 2 has been around for a year and a half. It's time to get past the showmanship and start getting into teaching again, which is what we did the first few years really, really well at ngConf. So hopefully this is a return to the roots of getting more deep and doing a lot more significant education around Angular. That's our goal anyway. And Joe's probably sick of hearing me saying that, but I want this to be the most educative ngConf that we've ever done. And I'm a lot less worried about the showmanship. Showmanship, that will be me and Dave, the MCs, but we want our speakers to be really, really smart, educative, and like just being able to show things that people haven't seen before. So,
well, I'll grow the pointy mustache again if it helps.
Title definitely matters, but it's not so much about, hey, is it the flashiest, cleverest title that you'll come up with? Instead, in fact, it could be a detriment to you if you make. We've definitely seen submissions where the titles got really clever and it's just too clever, right? So a good title still lets people know what the talk is about, right? That will help you in the long term. Even if you do get selected, because these videos go up on YouTube and they receive hundreds of thousands of hits. And when you have a title topic that lets people know what the talk is about, that helps everybody in the community. So, and that'll help us too. Justin had a question on advice for submitting 5-minute talks.
Oh yeah. There's not very many of them, so I honestly think that honestly, a high percentage of 5-minute talks get picked, Joe. Isn't that true?
I'd say that's true.
Because not very many people submit them, and we have a real need for them.
Right. But they're hard.
So they are hard. I mean, 20 minutes is hard. 5 is impossible. 5 is a hard talk, right? We've gotten lucky in the past. We've had some really good talks in 5 minutes, but if just 20 minutes is not enough time to talk about a lot of things. 5 is enough time to talk kind of deep on one thing. So if you're going to give a 5-minute talk, make sure it's pointed and you're talking about the thing specifically. Like, don't try and take Angular plus Firebase plus 50 other things. Like, try and pick a thing and talk about it. Do you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I think 5-minute talks are even harder than the 20-minute talks, because you got to have a topic that we agree can fit into 5 minutes, right? And you have to have an angle that makes 5 minutes work. I'm trying to think. There was a great example for me of a 5-minute talk that I think was given 2 years ago by a local, where he shot the Nerf guns. What was that talk, Aaron?
Ken Snyder. I can't remember what it was about, but it was Ken Snyder.
Ken Snyder gave this great talk. And he shot Nerf guns, and it was just perfect, right? For us, when we saw that talk submission, we really liked it. It was a great 5-minute topic. His topic fit well into a short time frame, and he took a great approach to it. So we need them. We don't get enough submissions on them. We choose from a few, and traditionally we've also taken some 20-minute talks and been like, hey, this could fit into 5. And we've asked people if they could cut them down to 5 to get enough 5-minute talks as well. So keep that in mind. But I say, like, you're asking for advice, Justin, and it's like the advice is work even harder on crafting a good 5-minute talk, because it's even more magic, but still even more beneficial to the community.
Yeah. And like Joe said, we get to the end of that day and we end up with a list of twice as many talks that we want to put on stage than we can. And so then it gets sucky, because we have to cut perfectly fine, fantastic talks off and form a schedule that ends up being largely what we think is best, right? So some of those times, though, we take some of those top-notch 20-minute sessions and we say, hey, we need this topic covered. We don't have any more slots. Can you do it as a 5? And that's where several of the 5-minute talks in the past have come from. So yeah.
Multi-slot transclusion, that was Ken's talk from Angular JS land. It was a great topic. It was an advanced topic, but it was small enough to fit into 5 minutes. So there's definitely room for that, especially if we look for advanced topics, because some advanced topics, they could fit. I don't know that. I would just think it off the top of my head, like talk on host listeners, right? Or lifecycle events. Those are great ideas for 5-minute talks. They could be 20 as well, but they could also fit into 5.
Another 5-minute talk that would be killer, and it's deep, would be a custom module loader. Overriding the default System.js module loader and writing your own to integrate with your existing build system from AngularJS or something. So that custom module loaders, that's like 1 page in the documentation. It would be a killer 5-minute talk. So we had a couple people join, not the least of which was John Papa. I kind of want to see if John has a question.
You gotta mute him.
Should I mute him? JP? Talking, Jay?
He butt dialed us.
Butt dialed us. Nate Brown. Nate Brown, you're here. Do you got a question? Oh, he unmuted himself, but we can't hear him. Type your question. We'll answer it, Nate. JP can talk to us later. Machjin says, along with a submission, can we send a video showing all 5-minute or part of the type of presentation we wish to give? Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic. We're not huge fans of putting on talks that have already been given at other events, especially if those events are online. But yeah, a submission of you presenting will help, especially if you don't have anything online that we can go look at, and we're trying to verify you're a good speaker. As far as charisma and energy goes, yeah, provide a video of us to see. It definitely helps. It helps us. So, someone wants to know what the Angular team is going to talk about, and I don't know. I never know what they're going to talk about. A few years ago, Igor came out and sat on stage and talked about superheroes, and we didn't see that coming. I don't even think he saw it coming. I think he wrote it the night before he gave his talk. So at the end of the day, we don't always know what they're going to talk about, but it's the stuff that people come for. They're the ones that are giving the core talks and helping us see the cutting edge. Rob Wormald's almost undoubtedly going to talk about Angular elements, right? So yeah. Anyway, Eames is gone. I'm alone again. Does anyone else have any questions?
I got a question for you.
Okay.
I was wondering if you have any advice for new speakers or first-time speakers, or I don't know if you've touched on that in past.
So, first-time speakers, we want to make you able to speak at our event. We don't want to be the event that only puts on the same people or the same people from other events. We want to have distinct people. We've had first-time speakers at our event that have killed it, guy. You know, Scott Moss came on and absolutely blew our minds. Like, he was so fantastic. And so we're a huge fan of these first-time speaker things that can turn out really well. I'll tell you, once we do pick you as a first-time speaker, we also offer all of our speakers some speaker training with an actual speaker coach. So we make sure you get time with a professional speaker coach. If you want it, you don't have to take it, right?
Yeah.
But if you want it, you can totally take it, and we make sure you got it. And if you want another hour or two, you can negotiate that with them. But we make sure you at least get some time with them to get the feedback and the polishing that you definitely want as you get ready to give your talk. So,
that's good.
So we'll help you prepare. If you're not on your own, once we pick you, it's not like we're gonna send you on a ship on your own and you got to figure it out without us. We're partners, right? So we'll help you figure it out.
I was talking to Elad because he did a couple of talks before and he was helping me out a little.
Okay. Yeah, and again, Eames and I have said it probably 5 times. Reach out to us. We'll answer. We'll help you as well. So,
do we answer Terrence's question?
The Angular team, what are they going to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just said they're going to talk about Angular elements, and then we don't know what everyone else is going to talk about.
We did have somebody that asked a question. This is maybe necessarily the best forum for it. Mubarak basically said, "I'm new to the Google world. Want to join you guys. Guide me where to start. I'm coming from .NET." It's probably a better, since we're talking specifically about the CFP here. We're really more talking about how to submit to Angular versus, this sounds like a question about how to get into doing Angular. So for somebody like that, just head over to the official site, get started over there, and attend conferences.
Also, I guess we should say this. I mean, I don't know if it matters in the context of this, but when we pick you, we pay for your flight and hotel to get over here. And if you're coming from a country that needs a visa, we help get you the documentation you need to get that at the interview, your visa interview. So we try and take care of you. We have a special speaker dinner. We try and make sure that you get a chance to be, part of this show. I mean, because you are the rock star, right? Like, you're the star of the event. So we try and make sure you get a chance for people to reach out to you and interact with you. We also kind of expect you to interact with people, though, because you are the reason they came. You're what they bought a ticket for, and and we can't have you just go hide in your room when you're done. Like we need you to be a showman like the whole time you're here, a show person.
Yeah, so our expectations might be higher than you may either be used to at other conferences, right? We expect you to put your talk together in plenty of time, to have it practiced, to practice it a few times, hopefully in front of some local meetups. We have a speaker trainer you can work with if you feel like you want to, but we expect you to do a good job in preparation. We're not big fans of people who are finishing up their talk slides the night before. We want you to show up to our tech check, and we need your slides submitted so that we can review them. That being said, we do make exceptions for people who are well-established speakers. I would say like last year, Justin Searles gave this amazing talk. He's a very established speaker. His process is a little bit different. We have like some experienced speakers like John Papa, for example, that we give a little bit more. Actually, for John Papa, we'll be way more strict on him.
Yeah.
But in general, we ask a lot. And then, like Aaron was alluding to, day of the event, during the event, we will ask you to do additional things besides give your talk. We ask you to spend some time in some rooms. We want you to be available to the attendees. Part of the value of attending ngConf, because all the talks are recorded, put on YouTube. So if it's just a matter of you just want the pure raw education, you can get that without being at ngConf. Part of the value of coming to ngConf is the fact that you can sit down. You know, it's the whole Angular thing. You can sit with us, and that includes all the members of the community, the speakers that are there at ngConf, the Angular team, the organizers, everybody. We try to make sure that you have plenty of opportunity to have hallway conversations, sit down, ask questions, get specific questions answered from experts, etc.
Yep. Juan Bonfante, he asked how detailed should the CFP be? I would say make sure it's got enough for us to understand what you're going to be talking about. I would say if it gets too long, like you're like, wow, I'm 3 paragraphs in, go back to the top, write a short version, and then put short version above it, and then put long version above your long version, just to kind of help us out get through the talk selection process.
Right.
So one thing that I will say, and I hope this is an important piece of advice. I think I use it every time I've submitted to give a talk. When you talk about the audience and you talk about your presentation, try to refer to your time on stage as the show, because you're putting on a show and people need to like the show. Okay, you're in charge of engaging the entire audience the time you're up there, so you are the show. So refer to yourself or your time as the show, and I'm saying do that just to get you mentally in the right spot of how you should be thinking about your talk. And don't refer to the people there as the attendees. Refer to them as the participants, because hopefully they're participating in your talk with you, and it's not simply a dry lecture, if that makes any sense. So yeah. Anyway, it's another piece of advice I'd give.
I wanted to circle around just a little bit. We were talking about like titles and how important clever titles are, right? And focusing on the fact that we want good quality content. Being flashy or clever, overly clever in your title is not that big of a deal. That being said, if you do have a really great topic and a great way to give it, and you can fit in we have an 80s theme, you could fit in something in the 80s theme, that would be a nice, but don't ever consider that to be like what might set you apart from somebody else, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get picked because you happen to put something clever 80s wise into your talk, but we would love to see some of the great talks that we would pick normally that could incorporate some aspect of an 80s theme. That would be great, but it's not going to be a selection criteria by any means.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, we got Nathaniel Brown here and Daniel Zen. If they have any other questions, I guess we should answer them. Otherwise, I think we're done.
Nathaniel had basically said he I just was interested in what topics we're looking for, and we talked about that a lot before, Nathaniel. So to revisit that, the CFP page itself lists the types of topics that we know that we're looking for, but there's plenty of others. And then there's a blog post on the ngConf blog that you can visit that has a little bit more information about that. It's always good to reiterate that information. The fact that we did a big, huge survey of not just attendees, but the community at large, got a lot of information about what people are looking for in the vein of what talks they want. So those are great places to be looking to figure out what to submit on.
Yeah, okay. Well, thanks everyone. Again, last thing before we go, JS_dev on Twitter, Joseph Eames on Twitter. You can email us at info@ng-conf.org. We'll answer there as well. If anyone needs it, if they feel like I'm not being responsive on the info account, email me. I'm hi@frosty.io. I'll try and reply there. And yeah, make sure that if you have any additional questions, that you reach out, because we want to make sure that again, this is the most educative event we've ever done. So yeah. Okay. Thanks. And
Thanks, everybody.
We'll catch you at
Look forward to seeing your submissions.
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck.